Hello and welcome. Let's start with Senegal. Authorities have intercepted over 100 migrants who were attempting to reach Europe via the dangerous Atlantic route. The migrants were aboard a long wooden fishing boat with no engine. Authorities intercepted them off the coast of Dakar. Now, reportedly, it was a group of young men from neighbouring Gambia, and they had been at sea for 5 days.
A canoe was found at sea without an engine. We don't know the cause yet. The police are investigating. There were about 112 people on board, mostly foreigners. We don't know at this time where the canoe came from. What we can say is that the Wakam fishermen lent them an engine to allow them to reach the Wakam fishing dock. It's thanks to this engine that they arrived in Wakam.
Every year, tens of thousands of migrants brave the Atlantic Ocean to reach Europe in search of safety and a better life. Now, factors driving this migration is economic hardship, political instability, and climate change impacts on traditional livelihoods. These migrants attempt to cross the Atlantic Ocean in poorly equipped fishing boats. They face unquenchable thirst, seasickness, and bone-chilling cold. These boats are overcrowded and the engines can easily break down, leaving passengers drifting for days without sufficient food or fresh water. Some vessels sink or never make it ashore. Now, earlier this month, at least 7 migrants were found dead on 2 beaches in southern Spain after their boats sank. Reportedly, they had departed from Algeria. Spain is one of the 3 main entry points for irregular migrants heading for Europe. The other 2 are Italy and Greece. Now, according to Spain's Interior Ministry, over 20,000 people arrived in Spain by sea between January and August. This includes over 4,700 arrivals on the mainland. And nearly 360 boats reached the mainland between January and August. Reportedly, thousands of migrants have died in recent years while attempting the Atlantic crossing from Africa, mainly towards Spain's Canary Islands. Now, just today, Spanish police have arrested 19 people accused of murder and torture aboard a migrant boat heading from Senegal to the Canary Islands. The wooden vessel was rescued adrift south of Gran Canaria in the Atlantic last month. It had nearly 250 survivors on board. Authorities believe that the boat originally carried around 300 people, and many of the missing might have been thrown overboard. Though the actual death toll on the Atlantic route is unclear, the International Organization for Migration recorded over 1,000 deaths and disappearances last year. The actual toll might be much higher. To stop these migrants from reaching Europe, countries like Spain have outsourced their immigration management to African countries. But such setups have often come under fire for reported migrant abuses. A recent report has accused Mauritanian security forces of committing serious human rights violations against migrants and asylum seekers over the past 5 years. Now, reportedly, the victims were largely West and Central Africans who were seeking to leave or transit the country. Both EU and Mauritania have denied these allegations. Now, despite the dangers, several migrant countries migrants continue to take on the perilous journey, even when the chances of them succeeding are slim. Now, for more on this, we have with us Lauren B. Landau, a senior researcher at the African Centre for Migration and Society at the University of the Witwatersrand, who is joining us live from Oxford, UK. Welcome to Firstpost Africa.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Now, what factors are driving the surge in irregular migration from West Africa to Europe, particularly along the dangerous Atlantic route to the Canary Islands?
We've seen this route being used in the past. It gave way in 2015 and later to people trying to cross the Mediterranean. But now we're seeing such an elaborate set of mechanisms in place along the North African coast and across the sea that makes it harder and harder to cross that route. So people have reverted to going through the Atlantic. Of course, if you're coming from Senegal, you're coming from Gambia, it's much easier to leave from there rather than cross the land and get to North Africa. But the risks, as we've seen from your reporting, are much higher.
And how are the Senegalese and regional authorities balancing security enforcement with humanitarian responsibilities when they are intercepting such large groups of migrants at sea?
Right. Of course, everybody has a right in law to leave a country. It is if you're not a criminal, you can leave. That is a human right. And so what Senegal is doing is trying to rescue these people. They shouldn't be trying to stop them from leaving. That is somebody else's responsibility. But African states are being asked to do this. They're being paid to do this by Europeans who want to keep Africans within Africa. Is this a security risk? As you said, some of these people might be criminals, but it's usually the people running the boats. It's usually the people exploiting the migrants who are the criminals, not the people on the boats themselves, who for the most part, not 100%, but for the most part, are simply people looking to build a better life somewhere else.
Absolutely. Now, despite these dangers, African migrants continue to take such perilous routes to flee to Europe. What long-term strategies should West African governments and European partners adopt to address the root causes of this migration?
I think there's two things to keep in mind here. One is that Europe needs migrants. The changing demography of Europe means that there needs labor, and that labor has to come from somewhere. So what we should be doing is thinking about a pragmatic approach, which says, what does Europe need and what does Africa need? We're not going to change the need to move. We're not going to equalize and make it possible for Africans to stay 100% in Africa. They need a life somewhere else. They deserve a life somewhere else. So rather than trying to create systems that keep people in Africa, we should be thinking about how do we facilitate moves? How do we facilitate moves that are safe in ways that can benefit Africans, but also can help Europe to meet its labor needs in the decades ahead.
Absolutely. Lauren, thank you very much for being with us on the show.
It's a pleasure.
Firstpost now available in 9 languages on YouTube. English,
Stands at $36 trillion.
French,
Le FMI, comme
German,
Geschäftsführenden Direktor,
Hindi,
$30 trillion kakaidyo.
Indonesian,
Pemerintah tanpa pemeriksaan.
Italian,
Sekali radikali.
Japanese,
4 兆ドル以上も
Portuguese,
por causa do próprio balanço patrimonial.
Spanish.
Beautiful bill.
Go to Settings, click on Audio Track and select a language of your choice. Be the first to know what's happening around you in your first language. Firstpost.